I now call the February 20th, 2025 Park and Recreation Board meeting to order at 10:09 a.m. Our first order of business is public speaker, but before we do, we're going to go to Mr. Slaughter for a special announcement.
Yes, good morning, happy New Year. For those of you who don't realize this, and I like to make a couple of comments, this is Black History Month. And a lot of people have not said anything about it or acknowledged that. But Black history is so important. And what I like for everyone to know that I think all history of all races are important. I like to thank, I can't thank everybody, but I like to thank Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Rosa Parks, because without their initiative, I wouldn't be sitting at this table. I'd also like to thank 3 young people that died in Mississippi. I'm going to call their names: James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Shinwerner. And please believe me, just like Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. And we as Black people need to realize we are not the only one that stand for our cause. And those 2 last kids that I called were Jewish. And please remember that. Please remember that. I also like to thank somebody that you recognize, Stevie Van Zandt, one of the front men for Bruce Springsteen. You saw him on The Sopranos. One of the most decent human beings I think on this earth. If not for him, his initiative, Nelson Mandela would still be in prison. Remember that. So as we go on with Black History Month, I'm going to make this quote, and I'm taking it from Steve because I made it. I am my brother's keeper, and I'm nobody, but I know a lot of somebody. So God bless each one of you. Thank God for Black History Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slaughter, and I'm our speaker now.
I'll read the speaker guideline. I'll read the speaker guideline. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to speak. Please direct your comments to the chairman. Any speaker who may be personal, impertinent, profane, or slanderous remark, boisterous, loud, and no personal will be considered. First speaker is going to be Yasmin, and you can sit at the table.
Can we have the camera, the person on the camera on the phone, scoot this a bit closer to the audience versus right next to us?
Good morning. My statement is design, impact, milestone people. I come to the board. I appreciate this close by. Done as well as yeah. I requested the board rename College Park Fahim J Minkah Point. This individual's ability for 40, 50 years to live in that specific city as well. That's the some folks been active several times speaking about the opportunity for the land, and I hope the board will be
Next speaker is Jamila Brown. Good day. My name is Jamila Brown.
Excuse me, can you put the mic closer to you, please? Just scoot it forward, yeah.
Good day. My name is Jamila Brown. I'm the daughter of
Fahim J Minkah here as well for the some of the accolades of my father through the last year. So I came with a few. First of all, I'd like to honor my father by giving honor to my baby brother. My baby brother serves as a DPD officer right now. My brother, when he started with DPD, funny thing, he patrolled the same area my dad did. Now my brother works as a detective in the violent crime division of DPD, doing the same things my dad did. My dad also passed away 7 years ago this month on the 15th, doing just what we keep telling you guys, support the community. Jalacia Smith is a track runner who went to college on scholarship from my dad, training her and her. She's just one of many. Jalacia Smith was the runner that my dad actually passed away seeing run. My dad passed away at Duncan. He saw Jalacia, he had a massive heart attack, he hit his face. Jalacia ran her race and won her and came to the hospital. I just recently found out that one of my best friends, her son is being trained in hurdles by a young man who my dad trained in hurdles. He's now a track coach. My niece sitting back there was living with my father when he passed. She graduated high school on time, no hiccups, and became an entrepreneur like my dad. My husband, Kerry Brown Jr., was trained in mechanics by my dad, worked for Dallas Area Rapid Transit for over 5 years, working on dark buses. Now he works for Snyder as a truck driver. My eldest son, 23-year-old Damian Barentine Jr., went to the Air Force in honor of his granddad. Now he's serving in Turkey. My baby boy, because of my dad's athleticism, training, agility, and abilities, my son, when he went through football, now basketball, he's at East Texas A&M University studying kinesiology to future be a sports medicine, be in sports medicine, physical therapy. All of those accolades come from the bones, the blood, the structure of Fahim J Minkah, one of his great nieces. So proud of her. She has the first student-owned vending machine for hair care products at East Texas A&M. His grandson, who he helped raise as well, owns a barbershop and tattoo parlor. These are all people who have sat under, been taught by, been mentored by Fahim J Minkah. This is why we ask for you to honor him by renaming a park where families can come and gather, play, participate with one another, and have events at.
That's your time.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Devontae Peters.
Hello, good morning. My name is Devontae D. Peters. I'm owner of the Alkaline Hour, a health store in Oak Cliff. I've been there down the street from the same community. I'm also a candidate for Dallas City Council. One of the things that inspired me to run is to listen to the voices of my community. And, typically we're unheard. We don't get our voices at the table. So, here today, and we've been here multiple times, we keep voicing our frustrations, our concerns, and our wishes, our hopes to how we would like our community to look. So we're asking y'all as representatives to hear our voices and, be on the side of the people. You know what I'm saying? I know there might be personal issues as to why, some people might not want to do this, but I say look past that because, everybody here is definitely motivated to do that. Like I said, I'm a business owner. I'm inspired by a lot of the people that we might not know about, or some of the non-famous Black history people, such as Martin Charles, the Charles Beasleys, the Fahim J Minkahs. These are the people that we look up to, or I look up to personally. And I would say, just looking into his history, this is somebody that I could see that I could pattern in my leadership after in my city. So, time and time again, we don't want to. We just want y'all to support this. We really do from the bottom of our hearts. Thank y'all for listening, and please consider to vote on this unanimously. Thank y'all.
Next speaker, John Fullerwider.
Thank you. Just want to reaffirm a few points that we've made over the past year. By changing the name of College Park to Fahim J Minkah Community Park, you'll be honoring a grassroots leader, a man who was of his time and ahead of his time. Fahim Minkah was of his time in the way that he worked as a street level community organizer in the struggles of the day for the recognition and expansion of human rights for African Americans in Dallas. Fahim was often at odds with the leadership of City Hall. For example, when he insisted that policing should respect the rights of Black residents and every resident of Dallas. He worked with neighborhood and tenant rights organizations to improve housing conditions among people struggling to survive financially. He organized among his neighbors in South Dallas to confront the local drug dealers. He was a track star in college, and as Jamia said, he became a highly respected running coach. He was legendary, according to the athletic website, Miles Split, Texas. And as she said, he was in fact at a track meet 7 years ago this month when he died of a heart attack. He was ahead of his time in the way leaders who challenge the status quo often are. Fahim was not among the leadership of the top businesses, the wealthy foundations, and the city government of Dallas. He was a leader nonetheless, a necessary catalyst for change. He changed Dallas for the better. Let's honor that by changing the name of College Park in remembrance of this good and fearless man, Fahim J Minkah. Thank you.
Next speaker, W. Marvin Delaney.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of renaming College Park. Fahim J Minkah Community Park. I'm Professor Emeritus from the University of Texas in Arlington. And I knew Fahim, of course, as a former student at UVA. And of course, currently I'm the Deputy Director of the African American Museum in Fair Park. So actually, the institutions that this board, I guess, supervises. Anyway, I met Fahim back in 1987. We did an exhibition across the street at the library on Black politics in Dallas from 1936 to 1986. Fahim was in that exhibition. He called me over the phone one day while that exhibition was being exhibited and told me we had gotten it wrong. And he called us out about this incident that occurred here in Dallas in 1968 at the OK Supermarket. And indeed, he corrected us. And we indeed took that panel down and corrected on behalf of Fahim. Let me just say, at that point, I was thoroughly impressed by his courage, his dedication, and his integrity. So much so that in 1992, we gave Fahim the Antonio Maceo Smith Community Service Award. And of course, we want to give that to people who we say make a difference in the community. Of course, we were thoroughly impressed at that time that he had started African American Men Against Narcotics, and indeed having a tremendous impact on dealing with the drug problem in Oak Cliff. I also got the opportunity, thanks to his family that are here now, in terms of looking at his papers. He kept a wonderful collection of documents that we are helped to get at the public library now. So let's just say he's a hero in our community. We at the African American Museum, as I said, list him among the community service awards that we've given out, and indeed one of the very special persons that we've identified in this community who made a difference in the history of Dallas. So thank you very much.
Your next speaker is Scott Larson.
I am a long-term Dallas resident, currently residing in North Oak Cliff in District 1. I am a regular user of the 5 municipal golf courses, frequently playing 2 or 3 times a week. I am here today to voice my concerns about the apparent lack of new trees to replace the trees that have been damaged and removed due to the numerous storms Dallas has experienced over the past 4 to 5 years. Park Department has done an admirable job trimming and removing damaged and downed trees on the golf courses, particularly the cedars, which are less sturdy than the other native trees. However, I have not seen any evidence of a concerted effort to replace the trees that have been removed. All 5 courses, in my observation, have wider fairways, less shade, and are much less aesthetically pleasing than they were 6 to 7 years ago. A clear example of this is the removal of 2 massive trees behind the green at the 12th hole at Cedar Crest. Now all you see is the practice green. In planning for future generations to enjoy these park venues, I urge you to consider a robust, long-term commitment to planting 1 tree for every tree that is removed, and to jumpstart the program with a massive planting exercise, such that in 5 to 10 years, the program will have a lasting and long-term impact for the next 20 to 40 years. Park Department already has an existing partnership with Texas Trees Foundation, which could be one source for the new trees. I note that every new tree requires an irrigation link to ensure the tree grows and thrives. Irrigation and drainage at all the courses is an ongoing and critical issue. The infrastructure is old, and getting competent irrigation professionals is, as I understand it, a constant and ongoing problem. There are some holes where portions of the fairway are almost always unplayable. The 10th at Stevens, the 3rd and 6th at Keaton Park, and the 2nd at Luna Vista come to mind. I urge you to consider adopting a plan and the requisite funding to ensure the planting of replacement trees, as well as addressing a comprehensive solution to the aging irrigation systems as priorities for these highly valued and very well used assets of the Park Department. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you. Next order of business, approval of the minutes for the February 6, 2025 meeting. First by Mr. Slaughter, second by Ms. Heavily. Any discussion? On favor, say aye. Aye. Against? Minutes are approved. Next, we have consent agenda, items number 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm sorry. Ready for approval, man? Okay, okay. Yeah, we are considering the agenda. For items number 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have a motion. Ms. Casby, second.
Can I make a motion for what, one?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that on the dedication plaque.
Hold on, I need a motion to separate it from the consent agenda.
Okay, so can I make a motion to separate the River Shawn Park dedication plaque?
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, we're gonna separate item number 1. So first we'll move to our considered agenda, items number 2, 3, and 4. Motion, Ms. Hesby, second. Mr. Slaughter? Any discussion? All in favor? Against? Consent agenda passes. All right, now back to item number 1. I'm gonna, I'm sorry.
Can I make a motion to include former park board member Jeff Kittner on this plaque of the River Shawn ball field renovation?
Provide some background.
Yes, please.
It's not unprecedented for the board. It has been done in the past where a board member just left. And the board made an exception to the plaque policy and decided to have both of the board members listed on the plaque where they wanted to add a board member to the plaque. So I just want to make sure the board has that background.
Right, he was here for the entire process of this, so.
Second.
Second.
I second.
We have a second by Mr. Dickey. So now we're voting on item number 1, adding Mr. Kittner's name to the plaque. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Do it, is that good?
Okay. Any discussion? Yes, sir. Mr. Dickey.
I think this is a great idea. I came on the board, as did Mr. Slaughter, Ms. Collins, Brad, Harrison Blair, 7.5 years ago. And we're involved deeply in the River Shawn renovation, everything about it. I think he deserves to be on there, absolutely.
So we are voting on number 1 with the sheet plus the addition of Mr. Kittner's name on it. For the record, this is the one we're voting on. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Now for individual, items for individual consideration, number 5, College Park namings. Authorize the name change of College Park to the Fahim J Minkah Community Park at Bonneview Road and Highland Woods Drive, financing no cost consideration to the city. Board discussion item, January 23rd, 2025. Have a motion, Mr. Slaughter. Second, Mr. Pagan. Any discussion? Mr. Slaughter.
Push my button.
Yes, sir.
Happy New Year. First of all, you don't know what pleasure it is to be here with my esteemed board members. I'm like a little kid, going to school, you don't want to stay home, you want to come see your fellow students. And that's what I feel about this board. We are at a pinnacle now. We've been back and forth with this, and we've seen what this man, I want to say guy, has done for the community. It wouldn't have taken as long if his family had millions of dollars. We all know that. Everybody that's sitting in this seat, it was not inherited. Your grandmother, your daddy, your mama didn't die, so you're sitting in these seats because the community elected somebody that nominated you. If you don't vote with me or agree with me, I don't take it personal. I'm not gonna say good morning, stop saying good morning to you, asking how your family is, or tell you that I really care about you. But what I do take personal is when you hear from the community, and that's what we're put here for. There's a song by the OJ, give the people what they want. If the people that represents that area, Councilman Atkins, State Senator Roy West, John Wiley, Yvonne Davis, think this should be done, who are we? Who are we? So, you don't have to agree with me, and you don't have to vote with me. I'm still gonna shake your hand and ask you out for a moderate. But this is something what we will put here, and this is something that we need. Don't tell this community what they need if you live in North Dallas. God bless you, and I hope you vote for this.
I see no other hands up, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Next item we have is number 6, Mumford Drive, 11. Authorize the land acquisition and assumption of existing lease for Mumford Family Shopping Center LLC of approximately 79,933 square feet of improved land, 1.84 acres. Addressed as 13305 Mumford Drive for the future international commons, not to exceed $11,310,000 from $11,250,000 plus closing costs and title expenses, not to exceed $60,000. Financing, Park and Recreation Facilities Fund, 2024 General Vision Bond, Fund, $9,480,672. Mall Area TIF Fund, $1,829,328. P&D Committee consider on February 2025. Have a motion? Ms. Haslam, second by Mr. Carini. Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, go ahead, sir. Ms. Ruby?
They do.
This project is a part of our district in District 11, and I know we discussed this in our last board meeting. I think that this particular development started prior to me being on the board, though I was familiar with the conversations. So I asked this board to approve this measure because it is one of those areas where it's a park that I don't think we'll ever be able to attain this type of property again in the future. So I just asked for your support on this measure. Thank you.
See no other hands up. All in favor, say aye.
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 Against? Motion passes. Those are all our voting items. Next, we'll go to our briefing. Number 7, Park and Land Dedication Update. Mr. Ryan O'Connor.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm joined with Lincoln Gerter, of course, who is our Park and Dedication Manager. And we wanted to update you today on recent meeting we had with City Plan Commission last week, kind of share with you some amendments they made and kind of where things stand related to our new ordinance that will be hopefully approved by council very soon. So, as you know, we have been working with the development community and the city attorney's office and all the partners that it takes to have a code amendment be successful. And part of that process, of course, is going through development code amendment process, which involves SOAC and City Plan Commission. So, as you can see, of the slide deck. As you can see, we went to ZOAC in October, then in December, and ZOAC recommended approval of the ordinance without any changes, and just at a very high level. I think you will recall that the intent of our revised ordinance is, of course, to be in compliance with the new state law and to really take the opportunity to simplify the existing ordinance, which has been relatively complicated in the past. So it's really an opportunity for us to have an ordinance that anyone can understand, whether you're in a development community or not. So at CPC last Thursday, there were two key amendments. One was relatively innocuous, which was a motion to an amendment to allow a developer to receive a 50% fee credit should they choose to develop a trailhead in conjunction with their development, which happens to be located on a trail. That was one. The second, and more impactful, was the motion and amendment to reduce the recommended fees by 50%. That amendment was approved by the Planning Commission, and then of course they voted on the amended ordinance, which was unanimously approved by City Planning Commission. So that's what we wanted to share with you today. So moving on to the next slide. Details kind of where we stand with fees. So at the top of the table, you can see our current ordinance, what I typically now refer to as the old ordinance. You can see that the single family fee was $11.65 per dwelling unit, multifamily one bed, $4.57, so on and so forth. The recommended fees that we had in the ordinance, you can see that relatively modest increases were recommended. Single family going to $13.08, multifamily one bedroom $6.54, so on and so forth. And you can see the fee increases that were recommended. And as I shared with City Planning Commission last week, we have not had a single fee increase since the ordinance has been in place. And so this was, in our opinion, a reasonable recommendation to kind of catch up and go forward. So the next line on the table, you can see the CPC recommendation was to reduce the proposed ordinance fees by 50%. You can see the impact there, taking single family down to $6.54. And then on the bottom of the table, you can see the impact to the current ordinance's fees, a reduction of 43% for single family, 28% for multifamily one bedroom, so on and so forth. So they recommended to reduce the recommended fees by 50%, and then these percentages here on the bottom of the table represent the reduction from the old or current ordinance's fees. So this is a very significant impact, of course, to our revenue generation from this funding source. If you can go to the next slide. This table shows you the other cities that are impacted just like we are by House Bill 1526. You can see Austin's fees range from $2,200 a unit up to $6,800 a unit. They are far and away the most expensive. You can see that Fort Worth has a flat 2% fee methodology, which is what we were recommending. That is 2% of their median family income, which in the case of Fort Worth is $90,000 a year. And you can see what our recommended was, and then the CPC's recommendation. So the point here is showing that, the CPC recommendation was dramatically below the other cities that are affected by the state law. The next table, sorry, if you could go one back. This is slide 5. This is showing the fees from suburban communities around town. So you can see the numbers there. Our recommendations, as you can see, were largely in alignment with the suburban communities and their fees. The South Lake kind of being the outlier there at $6,500 per unit. Plano a little bit on the pricey side too, but very much in alignment with Forney and Arlington. So again, our proposed recommendations were in alignment with our suburban communities. And then lastly, we just wanted to share some kind of immediate impacts as we see them. So if you can move to the next slide. And these are all, relatively obvious. So, a significant challenge challenge that we've experienced in the current slash old ordinances is you probably remember that there are 7 park dedication zones. But these were such that if we had enough segmentation within the zones that it took us a long time to be able to aggregate enough funds in each of the zones in order to be able to have the right amount of dollars to go out and make a land acquisition, which was one of the reasons that we're recommending to shrink the number of zones to 5. Therefore, the funds can accumulate more quickly. But with these recommended fees, it really means that I don't see an opportunity for these fees to accumulate quickly enough to be able ever to buy land in town. You know, the most recent acquisitions that we brought before you have had land values in the $500,000 to $1 million an acre range. And so I just don't see really the fee recommendation being ever able to accrue to a point that we'll actually be able to go out and buy a piece of land. So that means that we will probably have to strongly consider including meaningful land acquisition dollars in future bond programs, because we won't really be able to rely on this funding mechanism for land acquisition, which obviously has a cascade effect. We may not be able to do the other types of improvements that have, traditionally been found in bond programs, playgrounds, and rec centers, and so on and so forth, because we're going to have some amount of meaningful dollars allocated towards land acquisition to ensure that we're continuing to move the needle on park access and all the things that are important to the park system. The third point there is kind of a reiteration of what I said a second ago. I just really see that these zones are not going to be able to accumulate enough money within that 10-year time frame, which is the refund window. Applicants are eligible to request a refund if the funds aren't expended in 10 years. And so what that means is, we're just going to probably have to do very kind of relatively small park improvements with those dollars instead of land acquisition. And then, of course, it's highly likely that we're not going to be able to keep up with the cost of inflation. We know the land values are increasing at a rate that's very challenging for us to kind of keep up with from our funding sources. So that was a very quick kind of overview of where we stand, but we did want to share with you that, of course, the next steps are going to be sharing an update with the Parks, Trails, and Environment Committee, perhaps as soon as next month. And then it will be coming to, the code amendment will be coming to City Council, most likely in March or April of this year. But we wanted to share with you this kind of important decision that Planning Commission had this week. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We'll go to Director Jenkins first.
Yeah, I just want to add and just provide some quick background to the board. You all may recall, I want to say it was 8 years ago around when we got the park dedication fee in place. And I just want to provide the board background. Ryan O'Connor, he personally worked on getting our park dedication fee in place. And he worked with all the stakeholders, he worked with TRAC, the real estate council. And everyone came to an agreement what would be reasonable on setting park dedication fees. So fast forward, and then 2 years ago during the state legislation, if you all may recall, Ryan and I had to spend a lot of time down there.
Oh, we recall.
Yes, because there was a bill out there that was going to drastically change park dedication fees from the state. And Ryan worked directly with the author of the bill. We was able to once again get some language in there and come to a compromise that wouldn't significantly impact our park dedication. And once again, when it was, because in that new bill, you had to reset and change your zones or how you calculate. Ryan went back out again with the, got to remember the TRAC.
Yep.
And once again, got everybody to get on agreement on what will be a reasonable dedication fee that won't impact developers significantly, that everybody could agree to. And these were the numbers that you saw, Ryan, and Lakeisha sitting next to you all presented. Once again, to track, went through the CPC, went through the, I think the zoning, the ZOAC. And this would definitely have a negative impact on our ability to acquire land acquisitions in the future. It's unfortunate, all the work that was put in to get folks to all come to an agreement why this would benefit the city is being proposed changing that. And so we purposely didn't put a lot of money, of requests for land acquisition in the 2024 bond program because we knew we had the park dedication fees. So I just wanted to provide the background to the board. This would definitely have a negative impact to our ability to acquire land acquisition. And as you all know, we have some park deserts that we really do need to acquire land in order to make sure every resident in this city has access to green space. This will negative impact that opportunity for the residents of Dallas.
Thank you. We'll go to my colleague now, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Well, this is really bad news. Shocking, actually. I just had a point of fact, if I'm not mistaken, when the author of the bill introduced it, they were particularly upset about Austin's fee being high. And so they put it way down. When we came in with ours that had been negotiated, we were below that. So we actually were doing great. And now for this 50% cut in even that, well, there are two questions. One is, can you give me a sense of what the justification was at Plan Commission? I haven't heard the hearing. And then second, is it 2/3 at the council to overturn CPC, 10 votes, or what's the vote count? But first, can you give us a sense of what their justification was? And then what's it going to take for city council to overturn it?
Yes, sir. And I'll ask Lakeisha to chime in if I don't recall all the facts 100% accurately. But the context of the conversation and the context of the motion to amend was very much, fees in general across the city are rising. We have an affordable housing challenge in Dallas, and anything, I'm speaking for the CIC, anything that we can do to help continue to develop affordable housing, we need to do that. So it was really the context of this is an impact fee. We need to make sure that it's really easy to develop in Dallas and very affordable, and we need to do everything that we can to encourage affordable housing, even if that means lowering any fee being considered. Lakeisha, do you have anything to add to that?
I think it's also in the context that the building department did raise fees, but they had not raised fees in 10 years. We did make arguments that we had not raised fees since the ordinance went into effect in 2019. I also want to say that we weren't able to defend why we proposed certain fees per se, because we were being heard at the same time as parking. So I think some things got lost in translation. So we were not able to communicate to the city planning commission that the average value per acre for downtown is $4 million per acre. And that's only the land, because the HB 1526 only allows us to calculate the land value. It doesn't allow us to do the land and improvement value. Average acre for our urban areas for acquisition of land only is $425,000 per acre. And so I think if we had been able to communicate and emphasize some of those points, they would have understood things a little bit better. But we were in between the parking hearing, which has been taking a lot of time, And I think they've been trying to find zero in on that because they've been working hard for the past 6 years.
But also, I mean, we made the fee comparisons very, very clear. We spent an hour in the morning session of CPC sharing with the Plan Commission where our current fees are, where they stack up against suburban communities. So they had a very clear picture of what our fees were, what we were recommending, and how they compared to suburban communities for a competitive perspective. But to your second question, Mr. Dickey, Ms. Landers just informed me that it's not a 2/3 vote, it's a 3/4 vote that's required by council to overturn a decision of the Planning Commission. That the amended motion to approve the ordinance was approved unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Dickey. Mr. Kareem. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So as a park board member, there's a lot that we learn and kind of pick up through the years. I'll be honest, this particular topic is one that I probably struggled with. So I figure if I kind of struggle with understanding some of these numbers, then the average Dallas citizen might struggle as well. So I want to ask you a couple of questions and just answer me like I'm 5. So when developers come in and they build things, they need to pay some fees. It was a certain fee. Our developer-friendly CPC said cut it in half. We get half the money. Okay. And that's lower from a percentage-wise than other nearby cities by a lot.
Correct.
Okay. And our developer-friendly CPC sees no problem with this.
I don't want to speak for them.
Okay. Yeah, I don't either.
They approved the amended motion.
Okay, so next steps, there's a couple important meetings in March where we rally our park-loving friends and we storm City Hall. Because parks are for the people, and people need to remember that. Okay, I think that's the explanation I need. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Kermini.
Next, go to Ms. Hathaway.
Thank you. Actually, no, not thank you. This is terrible news. It's really, I think I stand with all of my fellow park board members. It's a little shocking. You know, we've seen so much progress through the mayor's initiatives, you know, to have more green spaces in our city. We've worked clearly very hard on this small mechanism that will allow development to put some money into the very important process of maintaining, preserving, and creating more green space. As long as I've lived in Dallas, doesn't seem like the housing and developers are having any kind of problems. Seems like there's plenty of it. And so, you know, kind of trying to hide this under the affordable housing, I think is very disingenuous. And frankly, our affordable housing folks deserve parkland and green space just as much as anybody else, if not more. So I am just a little shocked and taken aback by all of this.
If I could just add one comment, sorry to interrupt. And we did make this very clear at CPC last week. In all the years that we've been implementing this ordinance, we have never received one appeal or one complaint about the fees. We, you know, said that very clearly.
Dallas, to me, is a little landlocked. You know, we don't have a lot of green space out there that we can just go easily purchase. So to have any kind of mechanism to allow us to do that, even if they had said you don't get any kind of increase, we're just going to leave it status quo, that would have been great. But to see us actually get dinged and have to go the other direction, and frankly, as you know, maybe this again, sometimes we don't get to plead our case just as dramatically as we need to. But the end result of this is not only are we not going to have enough money to effectively purchase any land, but we are going to not have enough money to even be able to spend the little bit of money that we do, which is effectively just going to go right back to the developer. So why are we even going through all the trouble? So to Mr. Karimi's point, whether it's, you know, reaching out to our CPC folks and having them hear our own personal plea about this, reaching out to our council members, rallying our park people to help us. I think at a bare minimum, we've got to at least get back to where we were before these cuts take place, in the hopes that as we move forward, maybe we can find a group of CPC folks that are a little more inclined to put us on par with other cities. Like, look at our friends around us who are getting way more money than we are and are doing, you know, where are our folks moving? They're moving to those communities because they have those kind of amenities. So this is very disappointing, and I hope that we can, as a group, reach out to our council folks and see if we can get this overturned.
If I could just add one additional comment to your point. You know, we spent a lot of time putting all this together, working with partners in the development community. And it was a really collaborative, has been a really collaborative process. You know, so everyone was informed of where we were going, what we were trying to accomplish. And I would say in large, the development community is really find the program to be, because we all know that parks encourage development and there's a lot of synergy too. So, you know, not to try to speak for the development community as a whole, but, you know, our interactions with them have always been very positive, collaborative. So the other point I wanted to make was, you know, working with CPC, going through the ZOAC process, everyone on the, of course, ZOAC is composed of CPC. It's a subset, it's a committee. And we never anticipated anything like this in any of our conversations going through ZOAC, nor did we anticipate this in our conversations that we had with CPC commissioners in advance of the meeting last Thursday. So it was all quite the surprise.
And just to add, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't push the button, I know better. Just to add about developers, we know we have one particular developer that chases every last one of our trail developments because they see that green space brings value to their development.
Yeah, I would be curious to know why that change on the, is it ZOAC, ZOAC? Like, what the heck? Like, how do we go from everything's groovy, love your recommendations to, sorry, you, not only do you not get what you used to have, but we're cutting it in half. Like, how do we, where's the disconnect? I'm shocked. I'm a little confused. Anyway, hopefully we can rally. Not great news.
Thank you. And next we'll go to the lady in the white hat, Ms. Collins Brent.
Thank you. Quick question, Ryan. Well, a couple questions, but what is how much do we have in the fund now with the existing zones?
It's about 13 million.
And so I know we've gone round and round about this, about how do we expend the dollars? Because we talked about it a lot with the Webb Chapel park acquisition, but so we've got 13 million, and now do we have a plan for how it can be spent other than realigning the zones?
Well, so of course that 13 million is divided into 7 zones. And so you have 10 years to spend the funds until they're eligible to be refunded. So our strategy, of course, has been allowing those funds to accrue until such time that we have an opportunity to use them to acquire a property. The only opportunity that we found in the first 5 years of implementation has been the Webb Chapel property. So, you know, we're very much being strategic in that we're holding on to the funds to allow them to accrue to a point where we can go out and acquire a property. But once we get to, and Lakeisha has established a green light, yellow light, red light mechanism. Once we cross into the red light territory, which is years 8, 9, and 10, we need to deploy those dollars in park improvements so they're not subject to refund. But until that time, we're still very much in the mode of accruing the funds so that we are positioned to be able to acquire a property when one meets the criteria of improving park access and all the things that we're trying to accomplish.
Okay, because I mean, I just hate that we're going to be sitting on 13 million, it could be 15 million, 17 million before we amass enough to be able to spend it, which was our issue with Chapel, was not that we had the amount, it was just the timing and the zones. So now knowing that our ability to collect is going to be much less than we had originally planned and lobbied for. Can we be more aggressive in our policy to expend? And one more question is that 13 million invested, or is it sitting in a city coffer somewhere?
It's sitting in a multi-year fund, and I'll have to ask Rachel Berry if it accrues interest. I believe that it does. But to your other question, so we have to remember within the current framework of the ordinance, yes, there is 13, I can't remember the exact number, 13 to 14 million dollars in the 7 zones. That is further subdivided by, so call it 2 million in zones, just for a working number. That's further subdivided by an element for fee in lieu, so land acquisition, and an element for park development. So although, yes, it sounds like we do have a lot of money, 14 million, it is a lot of money, but really it's only $1 million in each of the zones to be able to acquire property. One of the recommended changes that we have in the ordinance going forward is to remove that bifurcation. So now it's really an aggregated amount of money that we can utilize to go out and buy a property. So what I'm saying is, right now, there's not enough money to go out and actually purchase a property in most zones.
Yeah, I remember that discussion about could one zone take from another and like an IOU or some kind of, because obviously real estate is opportunistic. And so we have to be able to, be a legitimate buyer when the timing is right. So, well, it sounds like it's a fairly moot point. There's really nothing more for us to amend because it's gone over our heads and with ZOAC and CPC, and now council's supportive of this diminishment of fees.
No.
I haven't started to visit with the council members about this, but it will certainly be something that we initiate very soon.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm all for, you won't find a bigger champion for affordable housing, but who wants to live in affordable housing with no green space nearby? So I think that's a very short-sighted view, by our, and developers realize their properties are more valuable if they have green space. So I'm, disappointed by this change because there had been such support for it. And we supported this years ago. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Ms. Mondell.
Thank you so much, Lakeisha and Ryan. What is CPC's jurisdiction over us and how are they allowed to do this?
So because this is a when we presented the SOAC and CPC, I said there are very few intersections between the development code and the park system, but this is one of them. And so this is very much an element of developing in Dallas. And developing in Dallas is governed by the development code. And so the CPC is the entity that manages the development code on behalf of the city council. So because this is an element of developing in Dallas, just like getting a building permit or just like any other sort of impact fees with utilities, anything like that, that all is governed by the Dallas Development Code, which is under the purview of the City Planning Commission, ultimately City Council.
Okay, so if a developer goes to CPC, it's just for rezoning, correct? Or to go out of scale from what's allowable?
So, you can go to CPC for plating, for zoning, for SUPs, for all sorts of development code related things.
And were you guys prepared enough to speak when this came up? Or you feel like, because I didn't really answer that.
I believe we were. I'm not sure, I'm not trying to do my own horn or anything like that, but there's really no one more knowledgeable about park dedication in the city of Dallas than the two of us. And so I would say that we shared all the information with CPC, all the comparables, all the reasons and the process and the collaboration.
The reason why I asked is that I reached out to somebody while we're talking. It's loud, right? And I said, how did this happen? And she said CPC recommended trail language be added, and not sure if that made it to us. And this could always be stronger, but that's how they were responding to the program. They were wondering they were responding to how the program is actually functioning. And they believe that they were limited to what's by state law. So I'm a little bit confused on her.
So what she is referring to is on slide 2, it's that credit mechanism. That was the other amendment that they discussed. And that was amended by which there would be a 50% credit on the total fee if a developer chose to develop a trailhead as a part of their development that happened to be located by an existing trail. That's what that amendment was related to.
I'm confused how we got here, and I'm hoping that there might be a little bit more language, like we could go to our state councils to help advocate, love a little bit more kind of, it seems not so cut and dry a little bit, so I'm trying to figure out how we explain it a little bit better so we can override what's happening here, because this is horrible. And it really does need to be changed back to what we put in place, what you worked so hard. So I think if we have some type of, we have more information on how to be able to relay that, and also get people to help advocate with us. I mean, I can remember some of the friends groups that were very much relying on this, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so, when we crafted the first ordinance, there was a whole kind of contingent of the development community, lots of representatives. There's a whole contingent of park partners.
Like Santa Fe Trail.
All of it, they were
Just remember, I just feel like a lot of people are relying on this to help with improvements.
Yeah, I mean, it's a powerful tool. It's used all throughout the state, and it's kind of a common practice with really almost all communities in Texas.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll call Mr. Slaughter.
Hold on, I'm coming. Happy New Year. First of all, thank you, Ryan. I'm shocked. I made a statement earlier about how we would put in these seats. Same goes for CPC. I don't think it's Ryan's job to go to our council people. I think it's our job. And I agree with what Rudy said, Storms, I think we need Ryan to go, and after we talk to our council people, his expertise in explaining everything. I know how my councilman's gonna vote. I'm so shocked. It's gotta be something like, my ex over here stated earlier. Future ex with can't understand. I deal with a lot of developers in District 8, and they also did development in your district, Tony LG. And they're ecstatic about this fee because they know what benefits they're going to get from their properties around these green spaces. And I am just totally shocked how CPC can take this stand. And like you said, you guys got kind of like ambushed because you didn't see this coming. I think we need to go to our council people. I don't think Ryan and his department needs to. They put us here, and we need to strongly twist their arm, which I don't have to do with my council person, that they need to put CPC in check. And I think that's what we need to do as a board. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next, we got Mr. Goldstein.
Thank you. So was the last update to the park board was the memo of December of last year?
I believe that was after we had been to the SOAC.
Yeah. So I think we've all been there where we're surprised by actions of the council. So, but it was there, I mean, we'll have to go back and watch it, but was there a lot of advocacy on the other side publicly?
Advocacy from other plan commissioners?
No, from other outside groups to
do the reduction. No, wasn't.
Would it be possible for us, given what seems like the will of the body, to bring a resolution to park board, and hopefully the council committee can go with the later date, and so the park board can be on record and council can figure out which way to go. So if it's, whatever the process would be for, if President Agrawal needs to weigh in, but I would say we consider putting a resolution forth where we're all officially on record of where we stand on the matter before council takes it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Next goes to Mr. McGough.
Well, Mr. Goldstein actually kind of made the point that I was going to make, but while I am upset, I am not shocked by this, because I have seen on previous occasions ZOAC and CBC ambush people with decisions. And in the face, as you said, with bringing reason and arguments, being the experts, incredibly so, to them just ignoring that anyway with a decision like this. So I would like to see the resolution. I would like whatever the appropriate way is for us to determine how we collectively bring our action, whether it's a resolution or how we structure these meetings with our city council people to make sure that we are presenting people as much of a unified position as possible on this. That's all I wanted to say. Many of the points I would make have already been made.
Thank you. Yeah, and I agree with my colleagues. When does the city council officially take this on to approve?
So it hasn't been scheduled yet, but the sequence would be, we would brief PTE, and again, that's likely to occur in March, April timeframe. And then there would be an item for the council to consider the approval of the code amendment. Again, that hasn't been scheduled yet, but timeframe approximately April.
And so if we put in the resolution and then we put in that first and figure out how to get to we know how to get to our council members, that's not the issue. But so we know at least they saw it first, and then we can go advocate against this after we do all the initial steps so they can see what we're talking about. So when we go in there, we're not just trying to re-talk, like kind of like what Bill said, where we might not explain it correctly how we need to, and get some information to their hands, whether it's a resolution like Mr. Goldstein brought up, and then some information to back it up. So we go in and talk with them and try to figure the best way to attack this, hopefully within by mid-March, because if not, it's going to come to us real fast. And they take a break in March. So that's also part of the week maybe a couple of weeks that we lose, not to be able to catch them in their office, whether it's a group or we all do it individually to try to get this, not to pass.
First meeting is March 3rd.
Sure.
March Trails and Environment.
Yeah, that's for the subcommittee, right? The park control committee, but also we got to get to the main body at some point. So, Ms. Hathaway.
Just a quick question. So when this went to CPC, was the reason that it was even being brought back up again is because Park and Rec wanted changes made to it?
It was carried forward to CPC because ZOAC had approved it and it go to CPC for consideration.
But that was driven by our request
Well,
for a change?
it was driven by the fact that the state law changed.
Oh, the state law.
Changed our ordinance to compliance with state law.
And the state law was making the change about
It was,
fees that was the 50%.
no, the state law change basically regulated how you can charge fees. There were other things associated with it, but that was at a high level. Every city impacted, of which there are 5, had to amend their ordinances to be in compliance with state law. So we've been down this road, going through that process.
So basically, it was sort of a very neutral thing that wouldn't have affected how we calculated it. But we took that opportunity to ask for changes. Is that correct?
So there was going to be a change regardless because of state law. State law gives you 2 ways to calculate the fee. And so there was going to be a change to make sure that our ordinance was in compliance.
Right. So we said, okay, if we're going to have to go through this process, here's what we would recommend.
That's right. Yeah, so that gets the shrinking the zones from 7 to 5, and took the opportunity to make other changes that were beneficial to the ordinance.
So there was a mechanism that forced it to be in front of CPC. Right. We took that opportunity to say, if we're going to go through that process, here's some tweaks we'd like to do. Correct. And as a result, we got smacked in the face and said, well, not only are you not going to get what you want, but we're going to take some away. So I guess what I'm kind of trying to clarify for all of us is when we create this resolution, is our intention to go back to, look, we just want to go back to where it was, we don't, or are we going to go back saying, our intention was to go here to be more consistent with our other competing cities. So like, where are we going with the resolution? Is the intent of the resolution just to get us back to where we were? Or is the intent of the resolution to make the changes that you recommend? So I think that's something that we would need to talk about a little bit, because we're gonna go to Park Trails Committee. That would be something that we would, whatever our intention is, I think we need.
Well, yeah, I mean, so, my perspective is, of course, I would encourage the board to have a resolution recommending in my opinion, the reasonable increases that are represented on slide 3, if we could look at that deck. You can see that single family was a relatively modest 12% increase, multifamily 1 and 2 was about 40%, and the hotel was 30%. So, again, these fees were developed in consultation and close collaboration with the development community. So I would suggest, or I would recommend, that if the board is going to pass a resolution, it would be to support the fees as recommended.
I also want to say that the state gives us the right, but we can charge 2% of median family income across the board. The 1% for the multifamily 1 bedroom, and 1% from hotel and motel uses is a compromise that we made because we didn't feel that we were going to be able to get 2% across the board. If we would have recommended 2%, some of the fees would have went up approximately 120%. And we knew that we would receive pushback for that. And that's why we have 2 uses with 2% and 2 uses with 1%. Because in state law, we are also not allowed to charge on commercial and industrial uses. We can only charge a parkland for single family, multifamily, and hotel and motel, which is what the state gives the 5 cities above 800,000 to do. So we were conservative in our approach.
And the point is to emphasize the fact that we did utilize a collaborative process working with the folks that would be affected by this.
So that, to that point, I would like to see our resolution be at the recommended percentages that you had in your presentation, and that went through, sorry if I keep getting this, is it ZOAC? That went through ZOAC. Like that would be what I would like to see. Of course, it's up to the body, but it seems like if we're going to do a resolution, we would do it for the changes that we recommended, especially since we did not take the full 2% across the board. That's all I had.
Thank you. Mr. Agarwal? You have his hand up. I don't know if we lost him. There you go. You're muted. Sorry, you're muted.
So we need to.
It's low.
Can you hear me? So we have to be proactive and get back, as Rudy said. But totally, I totally agree. We have been totally caught off guarded on this such important subject. So we have to be proactive and come up with a resolution, go to council with aggression. We all individually talking to the council members, and this has been your question of back to what we had or the new one. I think that we'll discuss when we bring this resolution to board to table in next board meeting, and then arrive at a decision as a group what we do. So no, that's what but I think it is like all board members, I can say, yeah, this is appalling. I think, we have been riding the wave of success in terms of bond, in terms of what we have done. It's just, it seems like it's a spite back at us. I don't have any other words but to say it's a spite back. And how could how could the planning commission members who are so supportive, whose council members are so supportive of the park board, they would vote against what has just happened? I guess there was zero advocacy. So anyway, so I fully support, and I think I will support the bringing the resolution, and then we'll discuss as a group what is in that resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dickey?
I just wanted to get on the record, I agree with Ms. Haspany's approach about staying with the reasonable increases that we have suggested and crafting the resolution around that. It has to be pretty simple and straightforward. The simpler, the better. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Kearney?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I think this is worth a round two for many of us here. I heard President Agrawal call it appalling. I'm going to double down on that. I'm going to call it bad politics at play here, and I'm not afraid to say it. I think there is quite a bit of retribution going on here. I think this might be a fallout of maybe Fort Dallas not going the way that some CPC members wanted it to go. Maybe the housing folks not getting what they wanted in the bond. And I'm bothered. I'm disgusted that it's always them versus us versus them. And some of these folks can't realize that when we win, we should all win together. I'm really bothered by that. Council members need to hear about this. They need to hear about potential bad politics at play, potential retribution at play. Mr. Goldstein brought up an excellent point. I would love to see a plan brought forward from our park department, so we don't sit quietly and we do go to council members with our own plan. I'd love to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I concur, Mr. Community, that we should have a plan instead of attack and try to figure out how we're going to attack this all together versus trying to have so many people pulling from different sides. But we should definitely go with what you recommended, where you're trying to get the initial push. I think we should go with that number. So when we do get a little bit of haggle back, at least we got a little bit of room, right? So, but definitely got to figure out what's going on and get this settled pretty quick. So, nobody else? All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Appreciate the briefing. Maybe appreciate it.
Mr. Vice Chair, I've never seen this so unified on a single thing before.
Yeah, we're all unified, definitely. We're all
Thank you,
we're
Ryan.
all
Thank
upset
you.
about this. So we only got about 30 days or so to try to get this changed. So hopefully we get good. All right, next we got staff announcements. Okay.
So we have a community meeting at Campbell Green Recreation Center, and this is on Monday, February 24th. Next one, we have River Shine Roundup, and this is gonna be on March the 1st. We have a volunteer tree planting event. We have several. The next one is on March the 1st at Revershon Park. We have a beautification event on March the 8th from 9 to 11, and this is at Lake Cliff Park. We have another tree planting, and this one's on March the 8th at Yellow Park. And the last one is Anderson Park. Excuse me, we have a ribbon cutting on March the 8th at 10 a.m. And Mr. Lawrence, do you want to do these?
And two exciting announcements. We have our Play Ball Spring 2025 baseball registration begins for our ages 4 through 12. And then our second registration for spring is going to be our youth soccer, again, ages 4 through 12. And both of those registrations are open. So send your kids, send your friends, send your family members to those QR codes and get your kids registered.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the staff announcement. Now we got any liaison reports? We'll go Ms. Hathaway first.
Thank you. Dallas Blooms was supposed to kick off tomorrow morning, but it's going to be a little bit chilly, so they're going to move it to Monday. But I've gone into the Arboretum once it thaws out a little bit and enjoy the tulips and everything that's coming out right now.
Thank you. Mr. Slaughter?
Yes, Happy New Year. With Black History Month celebration hosted by Mayor Pro Tem Ken Lackins at Singing Hills. It's gonna be an art exhibit, dancers, music, food. So if you're coming, you need to call his office, sorry to eat, because we don't want you to show up with a busload of your kinfolk, and we have nothing food for you. I was please be man there.
What day is that, sir?
This Saturday, the 22nd, and it's from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's at the illustrious Singing Hill. Babies, thank you very much.
I heard that was the #1 rec center in Dallas.
In America.
It is.
Mr. Dickey?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I just want to announce that liaison report, Park Board Member Karimi and I, 1 o'clock, are going to go over and liaise with the City Plan Commission because there is a proposal for a concrete batch plant next to our Elm Fork Athletic Complex on the agenda, and we are going to go speak on that. So we'll be liaising over there. If anyone wants to join us. Thank you.
What is this?
Today.
1 o'clock. CPC.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, yes, sir.
So just for everybody's sake and help, it's McCann. That's how you say it, right? G-A-N, just pretend like there's not an extra syllable there. I just also wanted to mention, some of you already know this, but next Tuesday, the 25th, we're putting on an event at the Trinidad Audubon Center called Power in Parks. It's for Parks and Recreation staff, and the idea of it being the first in a series of these events, I don't feel left out, is to empower friends of groups or prospective friends of groups to understand all of the resources the city has available and the ways that they can plug in and be supported when doing friends of related activities in their parks and the things that they can bring to the parks, both from the activation perspective, highlighting groups that have done that, like Friends of Teensy Park, but also connecting them to our local resources, not just from the city, but from other groups that we work with regularly to empower them to really take some responsibility, but just help them with the activations or kind of shorten the on-ramp to creating a successful operation. So Tim, would love to see you there as the liaison. Bo would love to see you there since it's in your district. And Daniel, I know you have a conflict already, but again, there will be other opportunities. We'd like to make it citywide. We're focusing on the southern sector at the moment. Friends groups go, but stay tuned for more. It's an exciting program.
Thank you, sir. Seeing no other business, I now adjourn this meeting I'm sorry, our next meeting is March 6th at 10 a.m. Seeing no other business, I now adjourn the meeting at 11:31 a.m.